is slated to, we really look at a 20-year horizon. And we tell people very often that be patient, don't be alarmed, because this is it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. And I think when we see the plan, it'll actually be split into 5-year increments, because we can't accommodate the kind of growth that we're talking about. Having said that, though, we like to think we have a wonderful community. We've got a history of a great partnership with our business community, with Mayo Clinic, and in certain respects, we've done this before. The city of Rochester has doubled in population in my lifetime, and we envision that the population could double again while I'm still alive. So, but we've done that before, and we have just a tremendous partnership with our business community. We think we've got a lot of opportunity for success.
That's great.
Is it too early to be sampling how the voting might go? Are you doing any
polling?
Any polling right now?
We are not, but we will be. Although we are, we probably won't be a public poll, but I'm guessing in the next couple of weeks we'll see 2 or 3, 1 or 2 of the major news outlets doing a poll. We've heard that KMSP is doing one, but we're not sure if that's true.
But you'll be doing some of your own, I assume.
We'll be doing some internal polling, yeah, just kind of get a feel for where we're strong, where we maybe need to put some extra effort into, more of a feel of where our focus needs to be geographically.
Yeah.
Where we love and where we need to be.
Kind of with the DMC, I think we gotta be careful we don't send a mixed message to people. We have the DMC saying, come to Rochester, come to Minnesota, but if the state is having a tax climate that says you really don't wanna come here because you're gonna be giving up a lot from your state to come to our state, I think, a coordinated effort saying, how do we reduce our income taxes, sales tax, making it worthwhile for them to come here and stay here. And that would mean, why would Minnesota continue to tax Social Security benefits when we're only one of 7 states that do that? So we want to keep them here once they're here, not leave for Florida, Texas, Arizona, other places. Even Iowa now doesn't tax Social Security benefits. So
is that a new development?
Yes, they had a 5-year plan to phase it out, and they phased it out now, and so 2014 is the first year where they're not taxing Social Security benefits. So, even if we adopted their plan, 5-year plan, say, okay, here's our long-term strategy, and I know he's looking at 20 years, maybe we want to, shorten that up to a 5 or 10-year period where we come in line with that.
I've used that issue several times in the last 9 days. Thank you very much, because that came from you. What else, particularly from a business standpoint, any thoughts on what could be done better with the state, in particular what the state could be doing better, or maybe what it shouldn't be doing in some cases, I'm guessing?
I think our tax system, I have a small business, and our tax system is absolutely absurd. I was just talking before you sat down, I get taxed on things that I don't know what I'm being taxed on.
Okay.
And I would really like to know why I have to be taxed on that, and where that money's going to. I mean, if it's a reasonable tax, fine, I can live with that. But I don't know where my tax money's going. I have no idea where it's going, what it's being used for. I've seen all kinds of information from different state services that say, this is where your tax dollar is going. Well, show me where that $1 of mine is going. I want to know what percent each one of those government institutions is getting from my tax dollar. And I don't know where any of that's going. I mean, I get that gobbledygook when I ask. And our tax system is way, way, way too complicated. It needs to be much simpler. And I'm out for the flat tax. And why couldn't we do that within our state too?
Well, it's not just that. I think I testified once at one of the county board things where they're talking about, the the fee for the incinerator and they raise something on our utility bill. Just looking at utility bills, if you didn't use any electricity, no gas, no water, no anything, just the user fees and service charges and taxes for me would be like close to $800 a year, not using anything. You know, so I mean, we're getting nickel and dime everywhere,
And those-
not just income tax, but just
No, but.
infrastructure.
Any of those fees, and those are state fees that are put on top of,
Right.
that's what I mean about my dollars. I don't know where they're going. And I don't know why they're going there to start with. It makes it pretty hard to convince someone
Yeah.
that they should do business in Minnesota when you can't explain the tax system or how many hundreds of dollars you're gonna get charged a year on your cell phone. And I have to have a cell phone, and I have to have a regular phone for my business. So I've got two phones, and, you know, I'm double taxed all the time.
The tax foundation just put out a statewide thing that shows value per dollar, you know, relative to everybody else. And Minnesota is the worst from the states surrounding it as far as value per dollar. Your dollar goes further in every other, you know, border state than Minnesota.
Isn't like Minnesota supposed to be the last for job growth, am I right on that?
I don't know.
I thought I heard that before, across the country, but
Well,
I'm mistaken.
I could tell you that Deed is promoting that all the jobs have come back plus more since the recession hit. However, those jobs a lot of them are part-time jobs. So there may be more people employed, but they're not employed in the same type of job, the skilled jobs they had, or anything else, and they might have 2 or 3 part-time jobs.
Yeah, because I heard businesses don't want to come here, last in the country, but I may be mistaken.
No, that stat is correct. According to the Kauffman Foundation, which is a national nonpartisan group, over the last 4 years, Minnesota ranks last in creation of new businesses, not new jobs, of new businesses, of business startups per capita in the country, which is, that's concerning, because if we're not constantly creating new small businesses, there will be a point, and we keep losing our Fortune 500 headquarters as we lost one a year for the last 4 years, that obviously the wrong direction to go.
Yeah.
There are things you can do about that.
You know, and I think that's all we're saying, is that we as a community, we can do our very best to make our community attractive to a business and to people who want to come and live and work here. We'll do our very best to do that. But then what the state needs to do is make sure that we have an equitable and understandable tax system to facilitate that sort of transition, so that, you know, we work in partnership in that sense.
I think that's right, and that, I mean, that is, we have, when you look at our tax code in Minnesota and you compare it even to just the states that surround us, kind of out of whack right now. There are changes, I think there are changes you can make with PFL support in the Senate. I think that there are some PFLers who would be happy to simplify and probably lower the tax.
I don't know if I sent you that audio, but I got Governor Dayton, when he talked to a group of AARP, there was a conference call at Kelly Town Hall.
Yeah.
Got all the AARP members in Minnesota, you know, connected in, and he actually was supporting indexing the taxation Social Security account. Move the back where it is to an index. If you haven't, I'll send it to you again.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't remember that, but
Okay,
yeah.
I'll send that.
Wow. He said that AARP.
The AARP, yeah, now, I even put in a letter to the editor, you know, that when he did his State of the State message, I said he must have forgot to mention that he supports that.
What other, any other issues or thoughts that people have?
Well, I think there's a confused message out there. We have a message on one side saying that our economy is good with a low unemployment.
Right.
Set of numbers.
Yep.
And business is good in Minnesota, but in the same paper, you read that 6,500 jobs are leaving from this company or from other company.
Well,
And it's hard to reconcile those, and
It
the
is.
public has to be confused. And so I think one of the key things that needs to be done is that message, a message needs to be clearly stated to the public and the voters as you go around of what is the true
Yep.
situation out there.
Well,
Because
and-
it's being, I know it's a tough deal to do.
It is, because the media is very consistent in hammering the message that everything is better than it's been in the history of the state of Minnesota. And my response can't be, well, no, everything's terrible, because nobody wants to listen to that. So you gotta try to craft a message about how we can do a lot better than we're doing.
Right.
And, I mean, the reality of those numbers is the unemployment in Minnesota is not bad. I mean, it is better than the national average, and we're one of the lowest in the country. But I think someone brought up underemployment. Underemployment's at 49%, according to the data administration. So I think half the people who are working in a job below where what their skill level is and what the pay level is.
Right.
I mean, that's the kid with a 4-year degree that's still living in the basement because he can't find a decent job, and a lot of other examples of that. And that, I think that's just a really important statistic to point out to people.
That message needs to be clearly stated
Yeah.
and hammered home.
Yep, no, I agree. And then, and this probably isn't worth doing because it confuses people, but if you look at job growth, not business growth, because that's been poor, but job growth in Minnesota, we were going great guns for the last 2.5 years. But if you look at this year alone, 2014, we've hit a wall. It's just completely stagnant. We've created, what's the number? I think it's 2,700 jobs the entire year. You go down to, well, you go over to Dakota, they created over 10,000. You go over to Indiana, they created 28,000. And it was 2,900, but we created 3,900 government jobs during that period. So if it weren't for that hiring spree, we'd actually be in negative figures for 14.
Well, that's another concern that I have, is the growth in the public sector
Right.
as a percentage of our economy. And the apparent, at least to me, of the control is in the public sector
Right.
population as opposed to the general population. So we're really losing control.
Yep, I agree. And I think whenever you look at job growth statistics, you should look at job growth minus government job growth, because that's not really job growth. Because everybody else is paying for that. That means a different job is not being created.
Right. And that,
Well, I came in late, so I'm not sure what, maybe this has already been addressed, but to me, the biggest problem, I have a small pharmaceutical company, manufacturing company, employ 80-some people. And we started from nothing in 1975, and we've done very well. We're quite successful.
Yeah.
Well, it's always been my plan, when I was no longer able to work, when I pass on, that my ownership would go to certainly key employees and perhaps beyond that, because I have no heirs.
Okay.
And, well, this gift tax thing, Joe,
Yeah.
that happened, that was extremely devastating
Yeah.
to me. In fact, because my accountant and my attorney told me that if we did what I wanted to do later, there would be so much tax that they would not be able to pay it, and the company would go out of business. So as a result of that, I had 30 days to make up my mind what to do. And I had to give some of this stock, at least I gave half of it before that
Before it kicked
tax
in.
kicked in. And that was quite devastating to me
Yeah.
personally. And and then they turn around and repeal it.
Right.
Unfortunately, I couldn't go back.
Yeah, you can't.
I
you
can't
don't get a
reverse
do-over.
that, I can't
Yeah.
reverse that activity. So
Hmm.
my beef is the way gift tax and that kind of thing. I can't imagine how farmers can possibly deal with that.
Yeah, no, that, I think for a
They've
farm.
gotta be devastated. It's the same thing.
Yeah. Well, you look at that, and that was the same session with the passed the gift tax and the warehousing tax and the farm equipment repair
yeah.
tax and
Oh,
a
yeah.
few of the business taxes, all of which they came back the next year and rescinded
Yeah.
because they got hit over the head with 2x4s.
Right.
Because people, I think there's a belief amongst a lot of the DFLers in the legislature and certainly the governor that there are really no negative consequences to what they do.
Well,
And because people, I've heard this, that people aren't going to leave Minnesota. Minnesota. Why
Well,
would they leave Minnesota? Well, yeah, right, of course they will.
The only reason I
And they are.
stay here is because of my employees.
Yeah.
And the great people I have working for me.
Yeah.
And if I didn't have such good people, I'd have moved to South Dakota in a minute.
Right, and we are seeing that.
Yeah.
We're seeing a lot of business owners, long-time, very active members of the community going elsewhere.
Yeah.
It's not just the loss of their tax revenue, it's the loss of their community leadership and money to give to organizations and everything else, so consequences.
So, say if we take it back to the houses here, what are your plans to combat democratically controlled Senate? Or even if we don't take the House, what's your plans to combat both of them?
Well, I mean, if I want to do anything, if I want to get anything done, I've got to figure out how to get it done, at least with the DFL Senate.
Yeah.
House maybe Republican, may not, but, and for me, the only way that happens is if I'm very focused on a small number of big things to get done. If I'm throwing out 17 different priorities, I won't get anything done. It's almost guaranteed. That's kind of the way body government works. So for me, the top of the list is the business climate. And there are business-friendly, relatively business-friendly Democrats in the Senate. I can tell you who they are. And so the job will be to sit down and figure out what can we get through the Senate, and then try to get just a little bit more than that. For me, that would probably be the entire first session. And I've got some education reform ideas that I think are really important. I've got some healthcare reform ideas. So, but it's all about focus and discipline. Or we'll just fight for 5 months and then change it.
Say,
Yeah.
sorry to interrupt.
That's okay.
As you know, the coalition is in town, and I have
Yes.
some duties to attend to.
Okay, that's great.
So I do need to excuse myself, but I do appreciate you taking
Thank you.
the time to listen to some perspective from the city, and I'm more than happy to share future thoughts at your pleasure.
Thank you, I appreciate that, and I'm heading over there in a few minutes too, so
All
I'll see you
right.
again.
Well, I will see you there.
All right, thanks.
All right, thank you very
Appreciate
much.
it. Yep.
Here's another, sorry.
One of the things I know the DFL is interested in is to not tax veterans' benefits.
Yep.
Good strategy would be to tie that to the Social Security,
Yep.
say, okay, we'll give you that, you give us Social Security, put the two through together.
Yeah, and to me, both of those are no-brainers. I mean, if you have a governor who pushes them, you could probably get it done. Yep.
Okay. Okay, so what are your plans to reduce Ventura or tackle it or whatever?
Well, it's, again, with the DFL legislature, we're probably not gonna agree to, well, I wouldn't move to the federal exchange anyway, even if they would agree, because I don't think that solves the problem.
Okay.
Everybody just has to go through the same nightmare again, and you haven't really fixed anything. So it is, as long as we have it, we're stuck trying to make it a little more market-based at least. And so it's, I would be pretty aggressive about trying to change the makeup of the board so it could actually include people who have some experience and expertise in healthcare, which they
Right.
don't allow right now.
Be
Yeah. And then just do everything we can to remove barriers so that the private sector can actually compete with the insurance. And,
Okay.
we are still, I believe, the most heavily mandated state in the country when it comes to health insurance. It used to be maybe 49, 48 now, and that's how you do that. You start peeling those back, which is really hard politically, but that's how you create more options and more choice for consumers. And, the more competition you have to insure, the less attractive insurance will be anybody, but the subsidies.
Right.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, we sent out several emails, and the one that you sent out recently about what your dream is and what you wanna do, I have dreams,
Yeah.
speech. I was really impressed with that. I
Oh,
thought
thanks.
that was extremely powerful,
Thank
and
you.
I hope you will use that
Yeah.
more with the general public.
Okay.
Because I really thought that was, anything you can do like to define what you want to do.
Yeah.
That's the thing we really don't get much from candidates.
Right.
I wanna cut taxes.
Yeah.
I wanna reduce spending. What's some specifics? It's just those glib statements that don't, but that approach, I think, is extremely, and then to have your wolves, so to speak, be the ones that attack
That's Bill's job.
That's
Not me.
And you be the nice guy.
Yeah.
You know, so you come across as a nice guy and have your,
Yeah, I appreciate that, and thanks for sharing, because, I mean, I've been trying to do that, is talk a little bit more about vision and positive.
Yeah.
You know, at some point, I will get much more aggressive with Dayton, because
Yeah.
that's how you win elections.
Yeah,
But
I agree.
for the short term at least, until we have the money to go up against ABM, which, you know, is not the case right now.
ABM is.
The Alliance for a Better Minnesota. It's Mark
Yeah.
Dayton's ex-wife, yeah.
Oh.
They're the ones with the TV commercial on right now, and,
It's not on Fox, I don't watch it.
then it's probably not on Fox.
It's nasty.
Yeah, it is.
It's nasty.
I don't think it's all that effective though, personally. That's just me. Yeah.
One thing I noticed about the 2012 presidential election was, in the first debate, Romney creamed Obama, but then he got really laid back in the second two debates. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, I just want to hope you keep your thunder in each debate.
Yes, and right now, we're trying to negotiate as to how many we're gonna have. At a press
Yeah.
conference this morning at the fair, asking for 13,
Oh,
starting at the state fair, but he said no, he didn't want to debate at the state fair, because he doesn't want to debate till October.
Right.
And he has said 6, but I'm not sure if they'll agree to 6. I don't think
I'm
that-
surprised if you hate it all.
Well, he kind of has to, I mean, you can't.
Well, he's already canceled 3. The one
Yeah.
today, the Farm Fest debate, and
Game
then.
I'm just saying, keep on the attack as in each debate. I'm just saying, like you said, Romney really dropped the ball in the second. two.
Yeah, well, it's all about presenting a contrast for people, they've gotta see what the difference is.
Yeah.
And you can do that without being nasty, I think, or we're gonna try.
Yeah.
But we do have to present a contrast,
Yeah.
and show, here's what they did, and here's what we're gonna do. and
Right.
Make it relevant to people. That's kind of.
One of the things I would suggest you consider is in this process of debating, and I do understand over the next few weeks, you may want to just sort of collect some support and financing and get your staff organized and set to go. But I do agree that you need to present, when you have formulated the positions you're going to take, you need to present those very firmly, a bit louder, a bit more consistently, authoritatively, if you will, because that is probably a better way than being the nice Minnesotan that you are and that we all talk about.
Yeah.
Because people don't really, they think that's nice, but nice doesn't get votes. So I would encourage you, although I have 20/20 hearing, I heard everything you said. Some people in this room did not. So I'm saying, when you do have that kind of audience,
Yeah.
be very clear, certain, and a bit noisier.
Yeah. Well, and our strategy right now is to kind of ride the little honeymoon we're getting about the nice guy, probably for the next week through Labor Day,
That's
and then
reasonable.
probably hit it. Yeah.
Okay.
That's the
Just-
plan right now.
I think that's fine.
Yeah.
I think one of the goals the government should be in your first term is, when you're done with the first term, the North Dakotans will pull a billboard down that says, "Thank you, Minnesota, for every time you have a city meeting, we get more business." I'd like that pulled down there, and start taking it serious over here.
Yeah, Wisconsin's got one of those, there are a couple of those too, I think.
That's
Yeah.
terrible.
Yeah, yep, no, it is, and it says a lot. I think South Dakota does too, I think they got a few billboards.
They probably do.
Yeah.
Maybe,
I mean-
pictures, photo ops by those signs. that,
Yeah,
you know,
that's a good
Feel
idea.
like Reagan had to tear down that wall,
Yeah.
Wisconsin.
Tear down
maybe
his
tear down that
billboards.
sign.
Tear down that sign. That's actually really good.
You gotta give them a reason to tear it down.
Yeah.
That's good.
I was just gonna say, I think along with being, what Fred said, being very articulate about it, but I think you also have to emphasize on what we're for,
Yep.
rather than what we're against, because we are constantly being bombarded about how we're against everything. And rather than saying we don't want this is what we want and why, so that we can, this is what we're for.
Concerned about how we're getting the message out to your generation and younger. read newspapers, and they're executives,
Yeah.
key positions, but that generation is not plugged into the media. And I'm concerned that we're using the wrong tools to go out there. I mean, I answer the phone, we get so many phones, we don't pay attention to the phone anymore, we shut it off. We're using old technology or old techniques, I should say.
Well-
Do you have any plans for some, are we gonna be doing
Yes.
some new things? Because
Yeah.
I think we have to.
We've been really aggressive with social media, so Facebook and Twitter and Pinterest and all the other things that younger people tend, and some old people tend to use too. But that is how, I mean, online is how the 20s and 30s get all of their information. And, I mean, if we learned anything from 2012 in that presidential loss, it's that we stink at using social media, and we just totally got beat by Obama's team on that. So we've been very aggressive on that, and we're gonna put some money into that as well, because we have to. We want to get some money on the board.
Because it seems like we're not, I mean, there's so much money going into, you go to the mailbox and you got half a dozen
Yeah.
letters every day.
Yeah.
And I'm sure, they just go in the wastebasket.
Yeah, you probably won't see as much of that now once we're past the primary. I mean, primary, because you have such a targeted audience, because you know who votes in primaries, that I think everybody was kind of mail heavy, but I doubt if you'll see much mail at all now, just because the state is so huge. And so while everybody will be raising money to get on television, a little bit of radio in greater Minnesota, and then I'm guessing social media, probably.
What about intellectual television?
Yes, they're great.
Yeah, good ideas on education
Yep.
and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, no, they're fantastic.
Yeah,
They're very helpful.
I know what people listen to.
Yes, they do. They're really good.
So, I mean, I have satellite TV, so I don't see my local commercial on satellite, but sometimes when I watch my local channels, I see commercials, but I just haven't seen any Jeff Johnson ones yet. Are you
Yeah,
doing
no,
that?
we won't be on the air for a while, and Dayton's not on the air either. It's just that Alliance for a Better Minnesota is on the air.
Oh, okay.
So, it's possible that there will be some outside groups that step in and put something on the air on my behalf or against Dayton as they have against me, but we don't have any control over that. But we won't go, I think he's scheduled to go on the air the last week in September. That's when he bought his time in. So that's probably, we'll probably be in that same general time frame.
Okay.
Before we get hard. And then we'll be on broadcast.
Okay. How would you be on like the cable channels? I mean, cable has local commercials on their cable. Would you get those too?
Yeah, I'm not sure what the plan is. We'll probably be on cable and broadcast, I'm guessing.
Okay.
Any other thoughts or questions? I probably have to head over in about 5 minutes. I think this week is 4:30.
The late dude that just came in, is Gene Peters,
Hi, Gene.
/ developer / farmer.
And a friend of Cleasley's.
You hear those around here?
His band played at my wedding.
Oh, yeah, seriously?
Yeah, that's really what Cat played at the inauguration.
Sure, why not? We can check that off the list now.
We'll take care of that.
That's great.
They're a good band. You got anything to input? What's your stance on ethanol?
I'm not a huge fan of mandates or subsidies, and I know we've gotten rid of the subsidies now, so it's just a matter of mandates. In my perfect world, we wouldn't mandate any energy, but I also recognize it's not a perfect world. And so what I've told the Farm Bureau and some of these other groups is that you're not gonna see me pushing to increase the mandates when it comes to biofuels, for example, or ethanol. But I'm not gonna make it a priority to start
Would
slashing.
you leave them alone where we're currently at?
Yeah, I mean, it's not gonna be I'm not gonna, make a priority of it trying to.
Will you listen to Beasley if he tells you what to do?
I always listen to it. It might be part of where that answer.
That might be part of it.
Well, it's gonna get into it's just my life.
All right, well, thank you guys for coming. I really do appreciate it. And I'm gonna head over to the Greater Minnesota Cities Convention and talk to them for a little bit, and then we're going to Stewartville for something. So I think it's like, it should be fun.
Good luck to you.
Yeah, thank you guys. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Jeff? I didn't raise the question.
Sorry.
Oh, I saw him. Farms land right across from police.
Yep.
So you two good friends?
Oh, yeah. Well, I guess so. It's tough. If that comes up again, I would leave.
I don't know what happened.
Don't come back to the police.
Cut my hair, what happened?
Yeah. Well, and there's another one where, you know, I have I start making those priorities.
I understand that. There's a reason why I was
Throw you out. By the time they get thrown out, it's all over.
But in case we're able to provide some kind of health insurance in one area,
That would be great. Thanks. Appreciate it. And again, I appreciate it.
you're welcome. You're welcome. I want to see you come there.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Excuse me.
Well, Conrad,
Looks like we're closing up the train again.
first of all, nice to see you here. Nice to see you. Always a pleasure.
Damn.
Good man.
Good to see you. A lot of rain. It's gonna help soybeans.
Yeah,
for the
thank you
need
for
to
coming. I appreciate it.
It's gonna be, I'm afraid I'm back to 4 years ago where I'm gonna spend 50, 60 cents a bushel rain. And $2.35 corn, you know, or $3.35 corn. That's 60 cents plus another 30, 40 cents of transportation. Doesn't do me much good.
In Rochester, here.
So, I think you're being a little modest. Vanacream is kind of a, I mean, Mayo uses it by the gallon, right?
All the medical centers in the
What is it?
United States. We make parts
Yeah,
for people.
part of the time it was made drinking it with one of those just short pills that Gary Smith.
We just came out with a guide over
I don't plan on it.
pharmacist by training.
And did you?
Thanks for coming down.
No problem.
This is a retirement hangout. You deserve to be. Oh, is it? So just on that alone, you should do care.
I take the house. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you for coming. You good? Good to see you.
Good luck.
Oh, we'll just-
Thank you. I appreciate you.
Introduce you to him and then, if he takes a second, and then I'm gonna set up a little business.
Oh, there.
How are you, sir? Nice to see you. Yeah, there you go.
Showing up.
Do you know where we're going?
Good. All's well? Welcome down to Raj.
Yes, no, it's good.
Good.
Back home again.
Excellent.
I'm gonna get back to life.
Always a pleasure. Yeah, now you do.
I had to be working taking care of the house. I think I don't do. Always impressed in anything you get involved.
Thank you very much.
You bet.
Okay. I look forward to seeing you.
So you're not.
No, are they? Well, how about you?
Yeah.
I have a half hour and then I think I'm supposed to stay for like a.
Yeah, I think we're there. Keep like.
Should I take a rocket and see like?
Let's do. Yeah, take that.
Yeah. Yeah. We're just walking over to the next one.
No, they're meeting at this circle.
Oh, they're meeting in the circle, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so, yeah, why don't you,
I have not seen it.
I want to get, probably rock.
I do.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll meet you down. So probably. And why don't we leave the bank?
live on the east side, you live on the south side. You're the wrong side of the track. Really?